There we go. Good morning, Peggy. Thank you for being here. See, get some other people to jump on. Hi, Linda. How are you feeling? Okay, so let me just, so my computer looks like it's buffering. Are we okay as far as the live? It could be just an internet connection on my end. So good morning, Carrie. Hi, Vesta. Got two Lindas in the house. Woohoo! So if you can just let me know with a comment if you've got a good connection on your end. Yes, Linda B, you were first. Hi, Terry. Okay, on the live. Okay, Vesta, I'm going to keep going then. Hi, Lori and Melinda. Yay. Okay. So I missed you guys, but I have to tell you, the schedule that I'm on for my lives has really, how do I want to say this? Has really been beneficial for me. I was starting to feel like I was burning the candle at both ends. It seemed like just 1 week would get over, and with my schedule of things that I like to do outside of Stampin' Up, the days just always ran into each other and I was always feeling behind. So having this week in between has made me feel like I'm a better creator, that I can take time with the project and let it evolve. You know how it is when you've created something, but then you think, oh, what if I would have done this? And so it gives me time to explore those other ways of doing it. And so I just want to say thank you for your patience and understanding of the schedule. This may be what I go to full time, at least because the rest of this year is going to be so busy with so many holidays. And it's not just busy for me, it's busy for you too. So I just feel so much better that I'm not so rushed, that even with the things that I like to do outside of my Stampin' Up, everything just seems to be falling into place, and I feel good. I feel calm. I'm not stressing out about trying to balance life. So I'm excited for today's project. This is a quilt block that I have looked at and thought there is no way that you can make this into a card. Now, our quilt block isn't going to look like the traditional quilt block, but it gives the illusion, and I think you're really going to like it. And there is a PDF that is ready to go, believe it or not. You're not going to have to wait till the weekend. But the only thing I have to do is upload this video to YouTube later today so that I can attach that link to the YouTube channel in the PDF for you. Okay, so another benefit of having more time is that I can kind of get ahead on PDFs and things, so you're not waiting so long. So in that PDF, there will be some cutting instructions to make this block bigger and give you some more ideas on how to go about making some alternatives. Okay, so I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to get started. Okay, I'm just moving some things around on my desk, and it looks like my laptop caught up, so I think it was just like an internet connection probably. I had to take a quick look to make sure there wasn't anything on my desk here that was going to give away the mystery. We're going to come in just a little bit like that. Okay, so I do appreciate everyone who's here this morning. I'm going to take another look real quick at the computer, say good morning to Sandra. Hi, Jill. And there's a third Linda. I see a third one. Hi, Katie. Hi, Darlene and Lori, Ruby, Sharon, good morning, Eleanor. There's another Linda. I think we're up to 4. Hi, Ann. Hi, Sheila, Vicky, Ellen, Terry, Peggy, Darlene. Good morning, everybody. So, yeah, the gremlins are at work. Nasty little gremlins. Okay, so, okay, how do I want to start this? We're going to actually put our card base together first. Okay, so let's move the paper up a little bit. We have a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock. It's half of a sheet of 8.5 by 11. And we're going to score it at 4 1/4. Okay, this is going to be just your standard card base. You could, once you learn the block, of course, you can put it into any card layout that you wish, but we're going to keep it simple. And we're going to combine 2 quilting, a traditional pattern, and we're going to incorporate something that is usually used around borders of your quilt. I don't want to give it away. So actually we've got 2 quilting patterns, so to speak, in today's card. Okay, so here we have our card base. We can set that aside. Bring in your embossed 4 by 5 1/4 layer for the front. This is basic beige. I am using the Autumn Toile Designer Series paper. I know you've all been seeing a lot. There are a lot of demonstrators who are showing projects with this paper. It's because it is just gorgeous. The stripes, the just the colors. It's really, really pretty. If you don't have it, you really should pick up a pack. And while I'm thinking about that, this is Cajun Craze. Now, I was not crazy about Cajun Craze back in the day, but it is one of my favorite colors. So I'm curious, in the comments, tell me a Stampin' Up! Color that you were not on board with, but over time has become one of your favorites. I'm curious. Cajun Craze was not one of mine, but I make sure I have it on hand all the time, not even for fall. It's just a beautiful, beautiful color. So I'm curious to know what color you didn't really care for, but now it is a staple in your paper crafting. So we've got our 4 1/4 by 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to turn it landscape because I'm actually going to use the grids on my paper to help keep me straight. I'm going to use my dark line here as just kind of what I'm going to go by. And I'm going to put my layer here 1/2 inch to the left of my dark line. So each one of these squares is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go over 2. And I'm going to use this dark line to help keep me straight. I'm going to bring in this 1 inch by 5 inch piece of Designer Series paper. Love the, I don't know if it's really a plaid, just having the squares, but I love this. And the other side has trees and some deer, but I'm using the early Espresso print. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let 1/2 inch hang off of either side. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because I am going to wrap my Designer Series paper to the back. You don't have to do that. You could cut this off. You could make this a 4 inch piece, but I love a wrapped edge. and I don't do it often enough. Usually it's just really easier just to cut it off and, you know, make it flush. But by wrapping the designer series paper around to the back, you get a beautiful edge. So I like to flip up the ends and create these little fins so that I can hang on to them. So while I am putting my liquid glue on the back, I have something to hold on to. So I'm just going to hold on to that little fin. I'm going to put some glue on the back. And then I'm going to come back down. I'm going to find my 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to walk it with my fingers up here to the top. And again, I'm using this dark line to help keep me straight. Okay. We have to cut some triangles. Put that to the side. Oh boy. We need to get out. Okay, we have some squares here. So, let's look at this really quick. I'm sorry, you guys. This was designer series paper number 3. Where's my 4th? Oh, here it is. Here's number 2. Here's number 1. Number 4. And then we have a variety of squares here. So let's talk about this for a minute. I am so sorry. So to build our quilt block, you need a 2 3/4 inch square piece of designer series paper. And so I'm using the early Espresso. Designer series paper number 2. This is a 2 3/8 inch circle. So I used the 2 3/8 inch circle punch from Stampin' Up. That's number 2. Number 3, we have 4 3/4 inch squares. And then this one here is a 1 1/4 inch square. So we're going to cut the 1 1/4 inch square. We need to make some triangles out of that. And here's number 4. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering the squares that we need to cut. And then those 4 1 1/16 inch squares of just an assorted, we're going to cut them. So let's bring in the trimmer. Let's start with the big square. The big square, which is 1 1/4 inches, we're going to cut that in half diagonally twice to make 4 1/4 square triangles. So we've cut it in half once. We're going to take one of those halves. We're going to put the long side up at the top. We're going to put our point in the cutting track. And we're going to cut it again. And we're going to do that with the other one too. These you can set aside. We're not ready for these. It's these 4 assorted squares that I need to start the card base. I didn't give you this homework because I wanted to do it together. So I'm going to put the 4 we just cut off to the side. And so each one of these, we're just going to cut in half diagonally one time. We want half square triangles, not quarters. So there's 2. There's 2 more. And these are just coordinating squares of designer series paper that are found in that Autumn Toile paper. That way I'm bringing in more of the DSP to our card. Okay, now I need 4 of these to get started, and I'm going to take 1 of each, and then I'm going to put the other ones to the side because we'll use those later. Okay, put those to the side also. Okay, let's get back to our card front. Susan, it's frozen again. Mine is actually working right now. So it's definitely a connection thing. Okay, because my laptop is not spinning. So let's bring in this layer, and now I'm going to turn it back to portrait. Okay, and I'm going to take these triangles, and we are going to start lining them up across the top, but we want to overlap them. So I'm just going to take one of these, and I'm going to start with the left corner, kind of like halfway, sticking out here on the side. Okay, and it's okay to just glue it all down because remember, we're going to wrap these. So I don't have to really worry about whether I don't want glue on one of the corners because the whole thing's getting glued down. Okay, put that up at the top. So there's our first triangle. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to find a pattern that we like. We're not going to put these corners down to where it's point to point. We're going to overlap them a little bit. We are creating prairie points. So that's our first quilting design element, is we are creating prairie points. And then wherever your last one ends, it's okay wherever it falls here. You want to overlap about 3/8 of an inch, but look at how we've got these prairie points. Now I learned prairie points early on when I started quilting, and they always overlapped each other. I can't wait to show you some of the cards that I started with, and then how the oh my gosh, I could do this. I want to show you how the final project evolved from the beginning, but we got time to do that. So that'll come a little later. So now we're just going to finish putting these on. Again, I'm eyeballing, about 3/8 of an inch. And you want to put your triangles down so that you see contrast between the one that you just put down before. So there's strong contrast here. And I think I'll come in with this gray granite one because it has contrast with the Cajun Craze. Always look for contrast where you can put it. Sometimes colors will fall next to each other that ideally you might have wanted not to happen, but we go with it. Okay, and then this one here is going to come down here. So there we have a prairie point border. Hi, Suzanne. Susan, good. You're good now. Okay, wonderful. And now what I'm going to do is, just to help me line up that other strip of Designer Series paper, this stripe is 1 1/4 by 5. It's going to sit right on top of the one we just did. Again, I'm going to just make myself a couple of fins here to hold on to. And then, oh my goodness, my belly is growling. So now I'm just going to butt it up to the strip that's already on our front. Okay, so here we have a couple of borders here. Now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put some glue on the back of these tabs, and I'm going to wrap that around. And I'm going to use my bone folder to just help give it a nice crease. Come up here and do this one. Just kind of make sure that it's sticking. And look at that pretty wrapped edge. I don't know if you can see it, but if you're doing it along with me, the way I'm doing it, you'll see how pretty that looks. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the other side. And if that little corner of your triangle, because it's going to be a little bit thicker to fold, if it wants to pop up, that's okay, because we're going to be gluing this down. So it shouldn't make a difference. Okay. So there we have our edges are wrapped around to the back, gives it a nice finished edge. And we can go ahead and glue this down to the front of our card base. Okay, so just put some glue there. You have an opportunity to hold those tabs down with the glue that we're putting on there. Get that off of my finger. Let's do this. Got a nice little even border all the way around. Okay. And let's bring in that card insert, which is very vanilla. It's 4 by 5 1/4. And we're going to put prairie points along the bottom here. So just put them down any way that you want. Again, we're going to overhang it a little bit, and you can snip those ends off if you want. But I'm just going to hold that tip, and then this is going to go down with a little of that hanging over. You can wrap these little ends if you want, but they're so small that it may be easier just to snip them. And again, we're just going to go across the bottom and put prairie points on the inside of our card. Okay. I love the look of these prairie points. And I'm not even trying to make sure that like my everything's evened out. I'm just putting them across and they go where they go. Again, I'm not trying to make sure that this side is even with that side. You can if you want to. I'm not going to. Okay. And then you can, again, you can wrap them if you want. They're really small, or maybe small, but I'm just going to snip them off. And here we have our insert. So we can set this piece to the side. We can set our card base to the side. And I know you want to know how to make this quilt block. You are curious as to what is this traditional block? Okay, well, let's get to it. Good, Darlene. I'm glad you're liking it. Jill says, I think so. Wondering how she's going to jazz it up from here. Okay. Oh my goodness. You guys are going to love this. And I can't wait to show you my samples afterwards, because I have a stepped up sample from this one. Okay. But this was my design, and so I had to go with it. So you're going to take your DSP number 1, and you're going to take that DSP number 2, which is the larger circle, and don't worry about direction or anything like that. It doesn't matter. But what we're going to do is we're going to adhere this circle to the square, and you just want to eyeball and get close that it is centered. This is a quilt block that is hard to get everything to be perfect. So you have to be okay with doing the best that you can. So I'm just gonna, before I put that other side down, I'm just gonna have to be, I'm okay with that. Okay. So that is that step. And now my computer's buffering. So I will need to see if by your comments if we're good. So yes, Carrie, using those prairie points on other cards, it is, I love a prairie point, especially borders. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to bring in the 4 3 1/4 inch squares of DSP number 3. Okay, so those, okay, all right, I'm just going to keep going, you guys, because I did see some comments that it's that we're good. Okay, so these 4 3 1/4 inch squares, they're going to go in your 4 corners. Okay, so those are going to go in your 4 corners. We can put them down. I'm not getting the Facebook's the signal that says anything about an interruption. So I think it's just my connection needing to catch up. It's not like somebody's trying to call me, or hopefully Facebook isn't going to kick me off, but it just needs to catch up. And there we go. It just caught up. I was getting really close to refreshing my screen, but you know, sometimes when you do that, then it throws everything off. So sometimes it's better to leave well enough alone and just see if it all works itself out. So these are going in the 4 corners. Again, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find contrast between each layer. And I know that Cajun Craze circle is really close in hue and everything to the early Espresso behind it. But if you keep with me, you're going to see that it'll work itself out. Okay. Hey, Tony, thanks for sharing. Okay. Hi, Helene. Okay. So we've got our 4 corners. Now remember these triangles that we cut from that one square? We're going to use those next. Okay. And they are going to fit in this open spot. Just like that. So what we're doing is we are creating a sawtooth star, and we're going to fit those triangles right across the top. So the longest side of your triangle will go along the side of that square that you started with, that 2 3/4 inch square. Now I'm just going to start turning my block counterclockwise a turn so that my hand is always going to that spot right there. Whoops. Getting glue on me. Okay. sometimes in our cutting we might be off a little bit. Just make sure that it's even. And that you got nice little points there. So before I finish, can you see how now we're getting a tip to our points that's a different color than the circle here? So we're creating these nice little tips. And if anybody might have an inkling on what this block is, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll give you a hint, kinda. Well, I don't even know if that hint will work. But if you can tell by the points where this might be going, I would love to hear what you think. And once I reveal what the block is, then I want you to Google this quilt pattern so that you can see how beautiful this pattern is, and it'll give you a lot of ideas on how you might want to layer your quilt block for another one, just so that you can see how colors fall. Okay. Hi, Judy. Do you think you know? Tell me. Okay. So we've got a tip here, and we're covering up that circle. Now we're going to bring in, oh, yes, I'm going to bring in number 4. And this is my little focal circle. So it needs to be smaller than the circle that we had put down. And when you're trying to figure out what size your circle should be, you want a circle that will fit in between the 2 points of that inside the corner of that square. Now, as you can see, my triangle does not come all the way down to be flush with the 2 points from the squares. And there's a reason for that. Because we're using a circle and there's an arch, it's okay that this point is shorter, because we have to take into consideration that there's going to be an arch here. Okay. Now, it's also kind of hard sometimes to find the perfect circle that's going to totally fit in with these 2 corners and that point. And with this circle, this is the 3rd stitched circle, the 3rd to the smallest out of the stylish shapes. So again, it's the 3rd smallest one. And it's going to take off, it is going to cut off some of the tips of these triangles. I'm okay with that. Again, this is something that you're going to have to give and take with everything. I don't have all the circles in the world that I could get this perfect. So you're going to have to compromise on some things. But what's important is, for me, is that my circle is going to sit inside those 2, the squares, okay, the corners there. And I want to make sure that this is going here. So I'm going to put this down. I'm looking for that circle to fit inside the squares. And as you can see, I'm taking off some of the points. Not some of them, I'm taking off all of them. But it's okay. All right. And then once you're happy with it, and I'm kind of paying attention to my ring here, that it's even, and I'll put it down. So what we've created are these, with this 8-point star, we're creating layers of color in our triangles. Okay. And I think I'm going to stop right here and show you a further example. Okay. Do you notice how much room we have between this circle and the next circle? Depending on what circles you have room to put another circle in between those two. And if you do, make sure that you put it down before you put your squares and your triangles. So you would want to layer the two biggest circles first, and then you can proceed. Let me show you why. This is going to be, this is a kicker here. Okay. Which one shows up better? I think this one does. Okay. So here is our star. And you can see, I believe this is a 2-inch circle, which I found my 2-inch punch. I couldn't find it when I did my first card. That's why there's only 2 circles, because I couldn't find it. Well, then I found my 2-inch circle, and I put another one in here. So now I have three colors to each one of my points. Okay, let me get this message off here. Okay. So now, is this quilt block bringing any ideas as to what traditional block that I was going off of? Traditionally, this would be called the Lone Star block. So I want you afterwards to Google Lone Star quilt block. And the traditional pattern is each one of these triangles has a series of diamond shapes that go through it, and the colors graduate as like light to dark. There can be colors in there, but it's traditionally made with diamond cut pieces of fabric. We could never do that for an A2 card. But if we use our rings, we're kind of getting that illusion of a Lone Star. So it's just a version of the Lone Star. I was going to say the hint is everything's bigger in Texas. For Lone Star, it is also called Texas Star. You might see this block called. So keep this option in mind. So I started with a 2 3/8, a 2, and then my third circle is like 1 and, where's my cheat sheet? 1 and 3/4, somewhere in there. Okay. So we have 2 rings versus the 3. But again, you can, and this is the same size square. So look how different that is. Are you excited? I have been beside myself for a week with this pattern. So let's keep going. So now that you've got all your layers on, this would be the time that you would want to quilt. I haven't done it, so maybe an embossing folder with a lot going on in the embossing would work. I stayed with something more subtle and used the 3D timber, all because I was afraid that if I have an embossing pattern that's really busy, it might take away from the quilt block. But if you want to try it, please do so. I'm just afraid to do it. So I'm going to stay with something more subtle. I'm going to put this through the timber embossing folder, and I'll be right back. So I used the same embossing folder for my background on the card front as, and I kept it the same as the block itself. Okay. So here is just a subtle pattern for that quilt block. Again, I'm just afraid to try anything that's any busier. So if you use something busy, please share it so that I will be more comfortable with trying something, a little busier. Okay, so now this is going to get adhered to that 3-inch square of cardstock. So it's just going, that 3-inch square is going to frame our quilt block. And then you have some decisions to make before we put this on our card. Okay. Let me show you those alternatives. So you could, and this is what we're going to do, because of the layout that I've already chosen, I am going to put my quilt block up here at the top. Okay? And that's what this one is right here. That's a finished one. Oh, and you guys, look. Here's something I want you to notice also. Okay, look at this. I changed the order of the first 2 steps. So I used the 2 3/4 inch square was the Cajun Craze, and my circle was early Espresso. And okay, I'm a little frozen, so I'm going to keep going unless I see in a comment that you're all frozen. Okay. Just look at how different it looks when you switch those 2 colors out. Now I have Cajun Craze peaks to my star points versus the early Espresso. So, but that's not the option I wanted to show you. Okay, that's not the option. What I want to show you is, before you put this down, if you've got a directional focal piece, do you want to, now this is a 4 1/4 by 11, but let's say that my fold was up here at the top. Do you want to make it landscape and put your prairie points to the left? Do you want to glue this down so that your prairie points are on the right? Do you see what I mean? That before you put that square down, look at the different options you have as to where the prairie points are. So portrait versus landscape. Oh yeah, Linda, definitely. Bookbinding fold, yep. Those prairie points would look awesome. So just know, now this is a top fold, but my prairie points are up here at the top. Oh no, this is a side fold. Pretend that this is, let me see what I got here. Oh, here's one. So here's a top fold. And it's 4 1/4 by 11 scored at 5 1/2. I've got my prairie points at the top instead of at the bottom. And now my quilt block is sitting down towards the bottom instead of the top. Okay, so there's a lot of different orientations. Just know where you're going before you put your quilt block down. Okay, so I wanted to show you those different options. Let me get back to the card that we're working on. I just want you to see the options before you go sticking your stuff down. But, you know, if you have to make another card, you got to make another card. So I'm going to bring in some dimensionals, and I'm going to pop my quilt block up. And then I want to show you guys, don't leave me, because I want to show you what a bigger square looks like and how you could put in another ring for another layer of color. So don't leave me yet. Gonna put this up here. And then we gotta go and we gotta put our insert in, and then your card is done. Other than some embellishments, your card is done. Now, if you're going to stamp a sentiment, remember, stamp your sentiment before I would even put prairie points on. Stamp that first. Because once this is glued down and you make a mistake or an oops, then that's a whole nother thing. So prairie points on the inside, prairie points here, And that is today's simplified Lone Star quilt block. Again, look at the difference. Let me bring in these purple ones for you. Because here, what I did was, again, I reversed the rings. I still have, your point is always going to be that 2 3/4 inch square. That color is going to define what your tip color is going to be. It's where you place your circles that you see the color graduating if you're staying monochromatic or something like that. So here I just reversed those 2 rings in the middle, and look at the different looks just by switching those 2 colors around. Okay. And then we have this, the project for today that's only got the 2 colors versus 3. Okay. Isn't it awesome? Oh my goodness. Now I have friends who have done a Lone Star quilt. Some have said they'll never do it again. I won't even attempt it. But I want to show you, but what I love is, as card makers, we have an option for that block. And once you Google it, you're going to see what I'm talking about when I say the diamond cuts. Okay, now of course they did strip piecing. Okay, so they sewed all their strips together, and it's the angle of the cut with their ruler that creates the diamond shape. They didn't have to cut each one out individually. Maybe back in the day they did. But with today's methods, if you put all your strips together and then cut, I don't know what angle it is, then you can get some of that. But card making, we just don't have the room. We are very limited in our space. So here is a 4-inch square that we started with. And I used, for the largest circle, it was the largest stylish shape circle. So it was the largest one. I know that I've got some layering circles, but look at the room you have. If you've got something even larger, look at the room you have between the tip and that first color. You could put another circle behind here if you've got it. Okay. Now, something else I want to talk about is, in order to get your triangles, you have to stop the circles. Okay. If you just keep putting circles getting smaller and smaller, you're going to probably lose the illusion that these are individual triangles. Okay. And you want again, remember, you want your focal circle to hit or land, right at these 4 corners. Now, this one just happened because it's larger. When I cut these 1/4 square triangles, they hit like almost perfectly. And I believe that this circle here is the 2 3/8. This is a 2 3/8 inch punch. And look at how the points all just happen to hit pretty darn near perfect. I just wish that I took the time to find an even larger circle so that I could put a 3rd color, but it's okay. It just means I got to make another card. So in the PDF, you'll get the cutting instructions for the 4-inch card. This would make a beautiful bookbinding fun fold, and put your prairie points like Linda suggested over here on the side. You can do that. So there's that option. So if we're looking at the difference between 2 3/4 and 4, you're going to have some options on how big your Lone Star block is going to be. Okay. Where did this whole idea start? Well, it all has to do with the prairie points. So this is my first prototype, and I just put the triangles just point to point here. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that looks, okay, so it's got that banner look, which is fine. But then it made me think Prairie points, okay? And that's how I got to the Prairie point part of it. My second card was, okay, I like all these that they're the same color, but what would it look like if they were different colors? So this was the first try, this was the second try, and then the card we did today was my third and final try. So I just put 4 triangles overlapping each other for Prairie points. Okay, oh, we got to put some, these are the streaked dots, and we're just going to put I'm only going to use 2 of them. And I'm going to put them down here to give this some interest, just like I've done all the rest of them. But I'm going to move it over to this side so that I don't have so much brown in this corner. I'm going to bring the brown over to this side with the oranges and the basic beige. Okay, so now it's done. Now I can say it's done. Okay, I've got cards to give away. So in the comments, if you would like to have a chance at winning one of the cards, then please type in the comments Lone Star. And I have a retreat coming up this Sunday through next Thursday. So you are going, like, all I have to do is upload this live to YouTube. So this evening you'll get the PDF shared over in the group Quilt Cards and More, okay, for today's project. For those of you who get the Barn Quilt card kit, I am mailing those kits before I leave for retreat. So they're going to go out 2-3 days earlier, and I'll catch up on the others if you know, when I get back from retreat, you'll still get them in time. But the bulk of them are going out in tomorrow's mail. Everybody who's paid so far, you're going to get your kit in the mail tomorrow. And I've already got the PDF done on that one. So look for this weekend for the PDF to be emailed to you for the Barn Quilt card kit. Okay, I just got to get all of this stuff taken care of before I go to my retreat. So thank you for being with me on this Thursday morning. I hope you enjoy today's project. Look at playing around with switching where you place your colors. If you can get another ring in those triangles for your star, go for it. Just make sure you do them before you put these 4 corners down and your middle triangles. Okay? And then, you know, of course, your final circle is what you do last. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go so that you can create. And I will be checking in with the group later this afternoon and to see maybe what you've come up with so far and maybe how you changed it. So thank you for being here. Have a great day. It's a heavy time right now with today being 9/11, the events that have happened yesterday and prior. So if this project brings you some calm and just to get away from the heaviness, then I hope that this brings some joy into a heavy day. Okay, so have a blessed day, and I will be checking back with you all in a little bit. Thank you for being here.